What do you see as the future now?
I don't know, really. I have no idea. I don't know what to do until we come to it, really. I can't even think about what I'm doing tomorrow, and I know I've got to go to London.
At what age did the Glimmer twins came together, or how long have you been together?
Under different names.
Since we was 5 or 6. Really?
Yeah.
6 years old.
At school.
Or something like that.
When you set out with Keith, you two met each other when you were how young?
About 4 years old or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were very, very young, and we were on the same block, more or less. Mick was telling me last night that both of you used to live in the same block or the same street.
Yeah.
For a short while we did. Yeah. And that was when we first met each other. Right. And that natural vibration just came together and just clicked.
On and off, you know. We lost contact for a long time because he later went to a different school.
Mm-hmm. You put the band together when? When
We were about 18.
Did it develop into certain kinds of roles immediately, that you did the lyrics and he did the melody, or?
Yeah, we did some songwriting, you know, like we used to live in the same apartment when we started off writing songs together, and so I wouldn't even play guitar half the time. I'd just be writing the top lines for Keith's chord sequences, and you know, and he would sometimes suggest melodies, and I would come up with all the words. And
when people have to travel together and live so closely together, it's almost inevitable for frictions to develop. Have these ever been a problem with the Rolling Stones?
No, never had any frictions. Of course we do, I mean, you know, like everybody else, but we don't have very bad ones. I mean, we never have any physical fights.
Now, have they ever been a worry to you that they might give
not
cause
really.
for the...
No, they've never given me any worries at all. I mean, we haven't had hardly any frictions, really. That's really been a very nice scene.
Keith and I kind of, in a way, direct the way it's going. No, I'm not saying that the rest of the band don't say they do rather loudly, say quite often. And our sort of friendship, though, obviously we've had lots of disagreements. Most of them have been over the band, you know, rather than personal ones. I guess that's it, you know. It's very hard to define what friendship, what Keith's friends. I'm not sure everyone's got friends and why am I friends with this guy? I mean, you know, you don't know, and you get on. Sometimes you get on great, and then there's a period where you're not maybe getting on so well. But it's like friendships lasted for 36 years or something.
Everyone wants to know though whether the Glimmer twins of old will get back together again. I mean, do you want to?
Only if it's going to be good. I mean, I'm not interested in just doing it for the money. You know, it's difficult working with people for a long, long time. You want to go on and do something else, you know, if things aren't going well with people. But, you know, if you don't get on, you don't get on.
The key to a Rolling Stones reunion is obviously you and Keith deciding you want to do it.
Yeah, well, it's not so long that we haven't worked. I mean, like I say, I don't know, 2.5 years. It's not really that long. In 25 years for a band, we haven't worked together. I don't really think it's that far apart.
It's been suggested that you know, the Stones are so important to him that you going out by yourself sacrifices the Rolling Stones. Is there any truth?
Well, the Rolling Stones, I say, they haven't toured in 6 years. You know, they haven't done anything. So, you know, if I want to do something, I want to do something.
You were amazingly close to Keith, though, weren't you?
Well, it depends. I was when we were very young. But, you know, he has a very different kind of way of living to me. And I'm not sure, I mean, I can't really handle it, you know. I like to live my life my way. You know, I like to write songs on my own, you know. I don't live in the same continent as Keith, you know. He doesn't do Zooms, I can't write on Zoom with him, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Are you good friends?
Yeah, we're very good friends.
Yeah.
Well, that's as far as it goes.
Richard says you're hung up on being Mick Jagger and that you've got this Peter Pan complex. I'm not quite sure what he means by that, but what do you think?
I don't really like talking about what Keith's opinions are. I think Keith should keep his opinions to himself and I'll keep mine to myself.
But we hear all sorts of stories about this big falling out and all that sort of thing. Is that pure media talk?
Well, it sort of hypes up a lot, I think, but you know, we have a lot of like ups and downs in the band over the years. So you know, I think it's good to get away from it for a bit. So it's sort of driving everyone crazy. Though I was the only one that wanted to admit it.
Why is he saying these things about you?
To get publicity for his album. Simple, really, because he needs me to get publicity for his record.
When he talks about the knighthood or being Sir Mick,
Yeah, all that.
you don't care.
Not really. I mean, it's so obvious why he talks about it. You know? It's like,
Which is what?
first of all, he gets a lot more press if he talks about me, because how else is he going to get it? And then secondly, you know, you work it out for yourself. You know, I got one, he doesn't. You know, what can you say? That's what a brother would do, isn't it?
That's what a brother would do. So he is like a brother, of course. You know, and there always will be. You guys will be playing music together until you are dead.
Well, I think that's true, yeah.
You know? But my impression of you two is that no matter what you might differ over, there's some bond there that you inevitably know will come back. It just will.
I think that when you've known people for a very, very long time, you don't really have a lot to hide from them. You can't really, how do you say, impress them is not really the right word, but you can't hide your feelings and so on. You can't try and... You just are what you are, and they know you very well.
Because the Beatles are loved by pretty well everybody, from the mums down to the teenagers. But it seems to me that you're either loved or hated. Why is this?
Well, I don't know, first of all, whether it's true or not. It's true to a certain extent, but looking at some of the audiences we've been having when we've been playing holiday towns, sort of all mums and dads and their little children, you know. But I mean, when it does happen, we're either loved or hated. You know, the kids hate us, kids love us, and the parents hate us. But you know, it's not really like that at all. You know.
Do you think there was a great difference in image making, if we speak about that aspect? I mean, like the Beatles were nice little kids.
Yeah, well, that's the cliche.
Yeah.
In actual fact, the Beatles were horrible little brats.
Yeah.
As John Lennon would have told you.
Yeah.
I mean, he was rude to everyone, but no, and he just did it with a smile. Yeah. Everyone thought it was nice.
Yeah.
But
how about you and the Stones?
Well, we did it without a smile, and everyone thought we were nasty. It was quite similar.
Yeah.
In 1962, John Lennon said that there was a better band than the Beatles, and he meant, of course, yourself. Yet the Beatles have been more commercially successful.
Well, that's because they're much better songwriters, you know. But that's not what rock and roll's about. I mean, they're just a very good rock and roll band, and we all love them dearly. Bless their little mop tops.
It was obviously an image, if I can use that term, that worked for you. I mean, the Beatles were the nice, clean-cut boys next door, or so we were led to believe.
Yeah, but then they weren't really, were they? They were sort of nasty, kind of, you know, just as rough and tough. But yeah, to a certain extent, that works for journalists, and all the publicists love it too. You know?
There was no difference there, really. You mean, but in the general public's opinion.
Yeah, well, they wore kind of suits and ties and all that for a long while, and their manager wanted them to be accepted as an establishment figure more.
You were accused of sometimes of vulgarity and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we were vulgar, but everyone was vulgar. Everyone was vulgar.
Was the competition on being the most vulgar in a way?
Between whom?
Different rock bands.
No. We were definitely the most vulgar.
Yeah.
How do you compare your group with the Beatles?
I don't know. How do you compare it with the Beatles? I don't compare it at all, you know. There's no point.
Well, let's get right down to brass tacks. Do you think you're better than they are?
What? You know, it's not the same group, so we just do what we want and they do what they want, and there's no point in going on and comparing us. You can prefer us to them or them to us. It's just diplomatic, you see.
Very diplomatic, and I don't want to labour it, but do you feel you do what you want to do better than they do what they want to do?
Yes. Probably. I don't know. I don't know what they want to do, you see. Very diplomatic.
John Lennon said that a long time ago that the Beatles were more known than the Christ. Do you think that the Rolling Stones now are more known than the Pope?
It's a good one. C'est pas mal.
Who are the greatest, the Stones or the Beatles?
I don't care.
No?
I think it's an irrelevant question.
Yeah.
There's a lot to compare. I mean, and also we were always in a bit of competition with them.
Were you inspired by each other, do you think?
In a certain way, yeah. I was never the greatest fan. I mean, Keith liked them more than I did. He liked them more than I did.
Yeah.
But I think from a songwriting point of view, he liked them. And at that time, I wasn't really interested in writing songs.
Right.
So I didn't really appreciate perhaps that part. Since when we started, like in sort of Beatle time, and the Beatles themselves, that people only wrote sort of euphemistic songs about love, and that was the whole deal. I mean, even in the 30s, people had written much more deft pop songs, like Cole Porter and things like that. But after the 50s, it was a very kind of era, and it was all like the Beatles' early songs like "Wanna Hold Your Hand" and all that. Please, please me. There was no real content in the lyrics. They might have been nice, you know, people liked them. And it wasn't really until like the Bob Dylan period that people started to write songs with more interesting lyrics.
During those very early days, just while the Beatles were recording their first songs, it was a real wasteland. England had nothing really to offer as far as pop music was concerned. The big hits here that came from England were things like Acapulco, Stranger on the Shore. This was what they thought of in England. And Midnight in Moscow by Kenny Ball. Now, we all remember that one. At that point, the Stones were playing in these little clubs in London, doing Chuck Berry songs and blues and things. And we loved doing that, and we pretty scruffy lot. And we thought that we were totally unique animals. I mean, there was no one like us. And then we heard there was a group from Liverpool. Now, anyway, this group, and they had long hair, scruffy clothes, but they had a record contract. And they had a record in the charts with a bluesy harmonica on it called Love Me Do. When I heard the combination of all these things, I was almost sick.
We were living in, you know, squalor. We didn't have any money, and we saw these. I was on the TV with girls chasing, and we thought, this can't be that difficult, so we thought we'd have a go ourselves.
So a little later on, you know, we were playing a little club in Richmond, and I was doing this song, and suddenly I saw there they were, right in front of me, the Fab Four.
They came down to see us at Richmond, and we were just completely a number, you know, and they were all suddenly, they were standing there in their black suits. They just come off a TV show, and they were just standing there sort of checking us out, the opposition, and then they introduced themselves.
John, Paul, George and Ringo. The four-headed monster. They never went anywhere alone at this point.
You know, always wanted to sell a song, you know, for any old slag he'd sell a song to write one, set up. Okay, they came down and we were trying to rehearse, and they said, do you want a song? We said, yeah, we're always really open for songs, because we didn't write our own. Right. And so they ran around the corner to the pub to write this song and came back with it.
Later on, they gave us our first big hit in England, which was a song they wrote called I Want to Be Your Man. And we were very grateful for that, because that really broke us in England. And but the example of the way they wrote and the original way that they crafted their songs wasn't lost on us. And later on, their success in America broke down a lot of doors that helped everyone else from England that followed. And I thank them very much for all those things.
Did you actually spend much time with the Beatles?
Yeah. It was a very kind of competitive thing, but it was very friendly kind of rivalry, mostly. Particularly, I think John was very keen, you know, sort of having a kind of good time together. We used to go out and have a great time. We didn't play together that much, just physically. I don't remember doing that. I mean, I saw John a lot later on, when he, you know, after the Beatles had broken up. He was a great laugh. I mean, I thought
drunk period, and then we straightened up afterwards. He was a great laugh.
Yes, I'm only wanna die. If I ain't dead already, woo, you know the reason why.
And now, your host for this evening, the Rolling Stones.
John was like a real sulky, cynical, witty, biting, very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, John was a great friend, close friend of mine.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was very acerbic and funny and witty and intelligent and everything. But I also knew Paul, who's a different kind of personality. You know, I've always been friends with him, and we don't see each other that much, but we do sort of text each other, and, you know, and so we sort of keep in touch. So, I mean, I've always got on well with him, and Ronnie and Paul also see each other quite a lot. So we have this sort of communication.
Well, we went through some pretty strange times. We had a lot of rivalry in those early years and a little bit of friction, but we always ended up friends. And I like to think we still are, because they were some of the greatest times of our lives.
I think that I have more women friends than men friends.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe I've got a feminine side. Or maybe women understand me better than men do.
I pushed the sexuality thing quite a long way on this. I spread it in as many different ways as I could.
But there's always been this sort of aura around you, well, you know, androgyny, and well...
Yeah, when you're young, is a time that you are rather androgynous looking. And that's a whole thing of classical literature and painting, and that was something that resurfaced with rock and roll in a big way. But that's, I think, something for when you're young, and I don't think that really continues when you get older, because you define yourself more.
We shot footage when we dressed in drag.
Which caused quite a bit of outrage at the time.
Yeah, well, dressing in drag is pretty traditional, but it was all effeminate. And that was one of the great criticisms. But I mean, show business is effeminate in a way, because show business crosses lines of gender.
Why do you do the skirts?
Well, you see, this guy, John, he made it for me, and he said, guys, I'm not wearing them.
Oh.
I'm never going to wear that.
But he does.
But you have to be very butch when you go out in the skirt. So when I'm in the skirt, I'm very aware of being very butch. And Keith, I guess a great look from Keith, because he doesn't know whether to laugh or cry.
This is a strictly heterosexual band, Rebecca.
Well, sexist performance. I mean, it's another. You know, it depends how. You know, some people like to be very kind of show-offy when it comes to that as well.
That wouldn't involve you, of course, would it?
Well, I mean, I don't really do too many sex acts in public. I like to keep that relatively private.
Sex is another thing that a lot of people...
Should they be allowed to use sex? Yes. What do you want to say?
Are you going to answer?
What do you want to say specifically?
That you've used, again, being accused of using.
Of using
as
sex?
As a gimmick, yeah.
Oh, using sex, you mean on stage?
On stage.
Oh, everyone's done that. I mean, that's a sort of tradition. I mean, from before Mae West.
But you even got, you know, you're an exploiter of it rather than, you know...
Oh, I'm not exploiter.
But
I'm just a singer.
Yeah.
I'm not a sex exploiter. I mean, I don't take my clothes off. I'm not a stripper.
I don't really like the idea of being a sex object.
Really?
But I can be played with from time to time.
It's done pretty good for you over the years, though. It's not...
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't be what you're not. Though, you know, what I really meant before is, you know, it must be tough for some people, like shy people in showbiz, and then they have to live up to some sort of image of being something that they can't be.
A lot of these
celebrity book, so that they will give you lots and lots of money if you write, mostly about sexual things. Right. So they're not really interested in a book unless it's full of sex. So,
Speaking of sex.
Speaking of which, chapter 1, do we really want to do that? I'm not sure if I'm that interested in writing it.
They always think, just think of so-and-so's, what they've done, what Errol Flynn's sex life was, or what, it's big fantasies for them, they can project themselves into that, A guy come up to me in the pub and say, will you please leave this pub? I say, why? I want something to eat. And he says, I don't like your way of life. Well, he doesn't know me. He's only got my way of life from the news of the world or wherever he's got it from, or maybe he's just imagined the whole thing. I don't know how he knows what my way of life is. Only in as far as the media, so it's a fantasy.
There was a poster outside this college, and it said, Mick Jagger slept with your grandmother. It was a joke, so it was quite funny, really. And it was meant as a sort of joke, because it was a college gig, for like 20-year-olds, basically 20-year-old audience.
The Rolling Stones, and you were the first big pop group, to be busted for drugs in the UK, and it caused quite a lot of consternation and debate as to whether in fact it had been rigged. Looking back, do you think it was?
Oh yeah.
Do you think you were being used as an example?
Absolutely.
Why do you think this was?
Well, it's rather complicated. It involved a lot of different people, and it just sort of snowballed.
Recently, pop stars are beginning to talk openly about drug taking, and they seem to have put happiness and love and drugs together. They don't always go together. I don't think heroin brings happiness to anybody, or morphine or cocaine or anything like that. This is terrible, terrible things that people just get hooked on, and they're really not nice at all. There might be other kinds of drugs which aren't as harmful as this at all. And we've got a fantastic, the whole world, Western world has got a fantastic legalized drug system, which there's hundreds and hundreds of places where we're supposed to take drugs, and namely alcohol, which is very big business. And this drug, alcohol, is certainly, I don't think, any worse than the other drugs which have been brought up recently. And it's merely the Western drug.
Are drugs, marijuana, LSD, so forth, necessary to the approach to your way of life?
No, completely unnecessary.
Are they?
You don't need to take any kind of drugs at all. But you can do.
But do you see yourself in any way in your music as encouraging young people to, use drugs, for example?
No, I never encourage people to use drugs in any song or in any interview. But, you write about whatever you feel best able to write about, whatever you feel like,
I think when the Led Zeppelin came, they were searched and everything. They weren't busted because but they were searched by the police, And almost every band that's come to Australia, I've been told, has gone through this, But that was with the other government, so we hope,
And the Stones never been to Japan, nor they not allowed anymore to go there still.
Some of the drugs,
and drugs and general misbehaviour.
There was a whole thing here about any lyrics that mentioned drugs, whether they could be played or not. There was a big flap over that. Do they have that over there too?
Yeah, a bit of that. Yeah, they banned a lot of records.
What's the theory behind that? They figure that if people hear any mention of drugs on the air, they're immediately going to run out and start taking them.
But they've got all kinds of other things, where they think that any kind of they want to be clever, so any kind of reference to anything, if they can twist it round to mean something else, they'll stop playing the record.
Yeah.
You had a reputation of being on the edge, of pushing the envelope of excess.
Yeah, and I did it for a very long time, and then it comes to a point where you go, well, I did it now. I think I have to sort of watch it because I prefer to be able to do what I do for longer. It's very dull being, you know, you think that you're having a good time, but you're really just a slave to something.
How long did it take you to realize it?
About 25 years. I'm a quick study.
When it was in the group and it was famously reported about Keith Richards and the like, did it ever affect your performance?
Probably.
You don't remember?
Well, no, of course I remember. I don't personally, you know, like performing, taking drugs. I always think it's better to be not taking drugs or drinking or anything. But I'm not. That's not saying I've never done it. Of course I have. But I sort of learned, I think, after a while that it was better. And it didn't take me that long to realise that it wasn't a good thing. Taking drugs on a recreational level is one thing, but taking them while you're working on a stage is, you know, I don't think always such
control
a great.
factor.
It's a control factor, and the thing about being on stage, you really want to feel that you're sort of in control a lot. I think because I don't think you want. It's not a place where you want to be out of control.
My responsibilities, as far as that goes, are only to myself. You know, in the public sector, such as to do with my work, my records, and etc. I have responsibility, but in my private, the amount of baths I take or my personal habits are of no consequence to anyone else, I don't think.
Do you condone then drug taking in private?
Condone drug taking? I don't know. It's against the law, you know, and that's not necessarily... I mean, it was against the law at one point, not so long ago in the judicial history of this country, to attempt to commit suicide. And some of those people who attempted to commit suicide were put in prison. I think, looking back on it, it seems rather a barbaric law. And we might, at one stage, look back upon this set of laws and consider them in the same way.
But do you think people should be able to use drugs if they want to?
Should they be able? That's a very leading question. I refuse to answer that question on grounds it may incriminate me.
Fair enough.
You've been involved in the campaigns for legalization of marijuana, have you not?
No, I've never been involved in any campaign to legalise anything.
Are you in favour of it?
Of legalising marijuana? Mm-hmm. I can't see why you should put people in jail for smoking it. But, you know, there's so many hassles and problems. But I don't really like laws like you can't do this or that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't drink at 2 o'clock or smoke marijuana at 6 or sell tinned food on Sundays.
Do you think it'll ever happen? Ever's
It
a long
might do.
time.
Ever's a long time. People, you know, there's certainly, you know, human beings seem to have a propensity to want to take drugs in some form. You know,
Makes you feel
for
better.
thousands of years, people have taken drugs. You know, whether it's like alcohol, which was invented, 5,000 years ago, people have been using that, and all kinds of marijuana and all these things, tobacco, I don't know how many thousands of years. Long time, I'm sure. And so all these drugs have, you know, it seems to be the propensity of human beings to want to use them. So I think you have to take that as read, you know. But then what do you do when it affects so many people's lives in not a good way, you know? And then also then you get a lot of violence at both ends of the scale. So you get violence in some countries producing country violence, and then you get, which like we have in Mexico now, and then you get violence at the other end of people trying to obtain drugs. So you got that part of it that's the part that speaks to some sort of legalization, because that you would hope would help the violence on both ends of the supply line.
But your own image, Mick Jagger's image.
I don't believe in images, by the way. I mean, I believe in them, but I don't personally try and project any.
Yeah. Well, is it hard trying to live up to this image that people have of Mick Jagger?
No, because I don't try to.
Yeah. At all.
No.
Mick, how do you react to the tremendously bad publicity you get personally, virtually all around the world?
and don't sort of think about it. Is this bad or good? Well, I don't have a sort of bad publicity agent who goes around, you know what I mean? It's just what, people sell newspapers by writing bad things, so that's what they tend to write about. And if you do anything nice, like sort of hit an old lady on the head, I mean, they don't write about it, you know, they just sort of, you know, I mean, that's what, I mean, everyone knows that.
Do people have preconceptions about you?
I can't tell. I'm sure they have. Fantasies they have. Not saying interviewers necessarily. Ordinary people, just people in the street, have certain fantasies. I think they have fantasies about everyone connected with rock and roll or films, you know. I think that's what films and, you know, show business, or what you want to call it, is about, you know, as far as they're concerned. And the media have always never tried to destroy that, you know.
It's only press and media that like to have images because it's useful to put people into categories or project them as images, like films. I mean, because like TV is an image projected onto a screen, often behind a screen. So you've got to have something to project on it, i.e. a personality, which is what TV is, like David Frost, right? So you work out what he is and what he is to the audience and sell it like a soap commercial. But I mean, we didn't really like that. So we weren't prepared to go along with that. That's why I don't believe in images. Though, I mean, I can see they exist. But images are reflections, and I don't want to be one. And so that you can be everything.
Well, it's the sort of sexy, evil, satanic...
You can be nice,
guy.
nasty, masculine, feminine, you know, all those things. And everyone is all those things.
Millions of teenagers almost around the world hang on virtually each word that you drop.
Oh, I've got a backache. Hang on, that.
Do you yourself feel any responsibility towards these people because they respect you so much?
No, only because a responsibility that one should feel for everybody. Whether you're anyone buys your records or whether you're just somebody walking the street, it's your responsibility. If you're a brother, it's your responsibility. I mean, everyone else's responsibility to give them as much understanding and as much love as you can.
If there are a lot of people who are convinced that in some way you and your music are an evil influence, that must be a challenge that you would take seriously and want to reply to.
I don't take it seriously anymore. I think we've won, you know. I mean, I don't think people do. I mean, I don't know if you are saying you think so. I'm saying, yeah, that at the beginning, you know, when we started out, they did. People would say that. I think now, I think they've accepted us. I mean, especially in England. I mean, if you stay around in England for longer than 5 years, you know, you become like an institution, you know, like, you know.
Now, when you guys first started, you had a real bad boy image. Now, was this something that you consciously created, or were you just rowdy young'uns?
I think we're just like ordinary rowdy people, you know, and, you know, in those days people would, like, when they went into shows business, they were always told they had to behave in a certain way, you know, not to upset anyone and be really, you know, goody-goody and all that. So that was the way that normally everyone behaved, even if you didn't, you know, even if you were rowdy and you got drunk every night and you got really crazy, you weren't supposed to let anyone know that. That was the sort of tradition in those days.
What do you think your public image is today?
I've no idea really. I don't really care. I've never worried about what it is.
But there's been so many things over the years. I mean, you know all those things.
It's a journalistic claptrap, all of it. Know what they want to make you into this year, or they want to make you into a 40-year-old a healthy degenerate, or a jet-setting celebrity, or a satanic. It's just journalistic cliches, really.
It's interesting, you know, everybody's got their image of Mick Jagger, and I think very often it's a different image. I wonder what your image of yourself is.
Well, I look in the mirror, I think, a mess. No, images, this image thing is just a thing of media. People have many, many facets of personality, and that includes me. And so when you're on the road, for instance, you become this, like a bit, you have a lot more ego when you're on the road, because you really need it to deal with the audience and to deal with press, or to deal with the pressures.
And he says a lot of them start to believe their own publicity, and that's true in any kind of show business. You know, once it's very easy, you know, you're on the road, you're successful, maybe you're young, maybe you're not, doesn't really make any difference. And people start telling you, oh, you're great, Mick, you know, you're wonderful, and if you start really believing that, you know, disappear up your own bum.
Do you read everything that's written about you in the papers?
God, no, that's the worst thing. You never read. I don't read very much of it, actually. I mean, if you come across it or someone shows it to you, you're not going to say, oh, no. And if it's a bad review, I love reading the really rotten reviews. I don't read the good ones.
I'm really, how do you say, thick-skinned. Either I've grown to be, or I am naturally very insensitive to other people's feelings, especially people that I don't know. Except in an audience, you know, and I take notice of them because I've come to see them, so I take notice of how they react.
How do you like ABBA? You know?
What can I say? I don't want to be mean to the biggest Swedish group.
I guess so, yeah. But you don't feel so much...
I don't think they're very representative of rock and roll. It's a sort of pop group. Synthetic.
Yeah.
Sure, they're very nice people. I never met them.
What do you think of acts who are supposed to appeal to younger people like Slade or T-Rex and...
Sort of another non-question. I mean, do we like them as a band?
Yeah, I mean that.
I don't personally like what
I don't like Slade or T-Rex very much. No, there's other bands I do like. I don't mind Slade. I don't mind some of their records are good. I mean, there's a band that's been around a long time, and it's not a bad band.
Maybe watching, while you've been out of the country, you've watched the T-Rex phenomenon grow.
Well, I saw Mark Bolan in LA when he played his so-called debut, which is about the 4th time he played in LA, actually. He played in a ballroom, which is quite nice. And he was all right, he went down well. Looked nice. I thought it was best when he played his acoustic numbers, really, sitting on his podium. Rather like he is now. But, yeah, he was good.
What I wondered was how you reacted to what's happening. Like, for the first time, there's something growing up underneath your generation. You know, there's a new generation coming up, and you're, in a way, being displaced as the involuntary leader of the youngest generation that's expressing itself.
Well, I mean, I'm not 19, and nor's Mark Bolan, but I mean...
but he's leading that.
Well, it's all right. I mean, musically speaking, I mean, I don't think you'll really have a new thing until you've got a new music. I mean, you know, while you're still basing yourself on sort of Chuck Berry, you know, you're still the same, unfortunately. I want something else. I mean, don't want Chuck Berry until we die, you know, we've got to have something else, man. But I like my Bolans. I used to like, well, I love Chuck Berry and Elvis, and I used to like kind of not quite so great people, maybe, like Ricky Nelson I used to like when I was young, because I liked the way he looked. Right. Now, the thing is, when you're young, you don't always like people just for their musical abilities. You like the way they look, or the way they do their hair, or what kind of shirt they've got on or something.
What was the one that changed it for you?
I think it was maybe Bob Dylan album. I can't remember, like Highway 61, or maybe it was earlier than that. I don't know. One of those around there.
Because you started writing things like Satisfaction, which were distinctly...
Yeah, well, the thing about those, there's social comment, but it's just what you feel. I mean, it wasn't the norm, what I meant to say when I was talking about pop. It wasn't the norm to say what you thought. You say, you know, I want to, you know, what I want is this. And you say, I want to screw you. You wrote, I want to hold your hand. So, and in Satisfaction, you know, the whole thing was I just wrote where it was I felt. And if it had been maybe earlier on, I would have kind of toned it all down.
Do you like Bob Dylan?
Yes, I do like Bob Dylan.
Well, he's over 16. I quite like watching his shows. I think it's quite fun, and I enjoy watching him.
Yes, I enjoy watching him, but his voice is...
You don't like his voice? It's a funny voice, you know, it's like a voice that's never been one of the great tenors of our time.
No.
But it's got a timbre, and it's got a projection, and it's got a feeling. So, and you were talking about earlier, you know, you were talking about, you know, as you get older, that, you know, your voice takes on a certain different resonance and a different pitch and so on.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that. And there's also something to be said for...
But Bob Dylan is, you know, he's standing or sitting on a chair, but you are running, jumping, not jumping anymore, but running.
I'm sure I can be jumping, but but definitely running.
How do you think of people like Prince and Michael Jackson? Do you compare yourself ever with them? I mean,
well, they're both pretty flamboyant performers. I thought, did the Michael Jackson show come to New Zealand?
You didn't.
No, you didn't see it. Well, it was a good show. It was very choreographed and so on. The Prince show, which I also don't think has come, is more gritty.
Yeah.
More sort of more sweat somehow.
Of course, you've worked with Michael Jackson on State of Shock. What's he really like?
He's a pretty straight guy. I mean, he's a little bit out there.
Yeah.
Do you follow the pop scene
No.
in Britain?
No, that's sort of vaguely, but not very. I mean, I'm not. It's very so changeable that if you go away for a month, you know, you tend to be all the bands I was raving about last week tend to be all kind of.
Really? I had a feeling that you would.
Well, I do a bit, and when I'm there, I do. When I'm not there, I don't try and keep up.
Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran.
I don't like
Depeche
Spandau
Mode,
Ballet. I
Jimmy
don't consider them anything new. I mean, those all around years ago too. I mean, Spandau Ballet's nothing new.
No, I just mean kind of current pop rather.
Yeah,
than
I don't think that
chart
Spandau Ballet or Depeche Mode is any good. I think Duran Duran's made one or two good records. You know, singly, you know, a few odd tracks and one or two good songs. I mean, you could say the same thing of the Thompson Twins. I think they're more talented songwriters, actually, the Thompson Twins.
What's with Prince?
Well, Prince, that's 1979. Was when Prince first came out, and I was bombarded with Prince albums because I got all these friends of mine that worked in this record company. He was on the same record company, and so that I was, you know, I knew about Prince, and he played shows with us in 1981 in America, and he was great. Then now he's become huge.
Sexy.
I haven't been to bed with him, but I'll have a go.
As a stage performer.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was really sexy. When I saw him, he doesn't do it anymore. And so you won't see him with the knickers and everything.
Oh, yeah, and the suspenders.
Yeah, you won't see that anymore. That's all gone, you see. You've got to catch it while it's there.
Shame.
But I think no, seriously though, he got
it?
Yeah, he's definitely got it compared to, for me, compared to sort of a group like Spandau Ballet. I mean, there's no comparison in musically talent as well as on stage. I say that, but I've never seen Spandau Ballet on stage, so that's unfair, really.
It is.
So what do you reckon? Madonna, eh? We loved it.
I thought it was all right, but I'd heard so many great things.
Yeah, me too. I thought I was going to be so blown away. I was going to have to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, that's what I thought. No, there wasn't that, was it? Really? No. Right. The tempos are a bit sort of.
It was a bit stodgy.
Yeah.
She could have done with another 2 or 3 hits.
Yeah, fast numbers at the middle.
Just, you know, she hasn't toured for 8 years. When you don't tour for 8 years.
Yeah. You don't. No, you get a bit rusty.
No,
I didn't know it was
the
that
audience
long.
want you to. You know.
Yeah, they want you.
Oh, and when she's doing those things like Holiday at the end, with the 2 back again, she's great. She's being Madonna. She's being Rose.
Yeah.
But she was trying to be all artsy fartsy, and I understand that. We've all been there. We've all done that.
Yeah.
And
the thing I wanted to see is in your next show is that you leaping off the top with one of those things.
Can you picture yourself at the age 60 doing what you do now?
Yeah, easily, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Going on stage with a cane and moving the way you do?
There's a lot of people that do it at 69. I think it's a bit weird, you know, but they seem to still get their rocks off at it. Marlene Dietrich, she still does it, and she's more than 60.
She still does it?
Yeah. When you get old, you're saying, what happens to you, love?
Yeah.
You get old and you wash the dishes.
But as far as being a pop star, do you think you can go on, you know, for...
Well, a lot of people do, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to be a singer for longer than I thought it was just a sort of mild interlude in my collegiate career. But it ain't, so, you know. And a lot of people go on singing like Tony Bennett. I mean, how old is he? I don't know, blimey, you know. I don't really want to be like that. Frank Sinatra, how old is he? I mean, really. Maurice Chevalier, who's no longer with us, I mean, he went on forever. But I don't want to.
But do you think you will anymore?
No.
What would you do?
I don't know. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Mick, you said you couldn't see yourself on stage at the age of 40 belting out Satisfaction.
No, I didn't.
Didn't you?
No.
What did you say?
I said I couldn't see myself on stage at 50 doing it, didn't I?
Oh, well, you quoted us saying 40. Let's forget about 40 and 50. What about when you're 60? What are you going to be doing?
I don't know. You can't really look that far into the future with any kind of accuracy, I don't think.
Here he is.
I can't get them. No, it's a pretty hopeless idea.
Here's what somebody said about you. Here's a man who worked so hard to maintain, talking about you as a person. Yeah, to maintain an aura of youthfulness, and here he looks his age.
Well, that's the idea of in the role, you know. I wasn't trying to act like a kind of rock singer on stage, being full of beans and energy.
Yeah.
That's a different role. You know?
Yeah.
It's another role.
That's the one we saved for 40 licks.
I saved that one.
How do you feel about your image? I mean, your appearance now and keeping it up now that you're over 40. I mean, I saw in Interview magazine, the American magazine, a front cover of you and lots of pictures on the inside, where they seem to have treated them so that you couldn't see any lines or anything. I mean,
I didn't do that.
Oh, I know you didn't, but I mean, do people want you to be kind of eternally all sort of...
No, I don't. No, not at all. I mean, no,
I just thought it'd be a bit more interesting to be.
We can have a big nose.
Craggier.
Well, you know, you can't really help getting older. You know, time goes on. I mean, I've been doing this for 22 years. But I mean, I don't think that you want to project. I mean, you can't be like 19.
Well, no, of course.
Forever.
No,
and it's stupid to play like you would be.
You're very used to be this very beautiful sex symbol and everything, you know. But I mean, when you go 60 or something and you look in the mirror, you've got a lot of wrinkles and everything. Could you do it? Could you do a plastic operation?
I don't think so. I know, but it's not so bad for men as women. You know, I think women have a harder time with it. But there's a lot of pain involved, I'm sure. And as I don't like pain, that definitely will keep me away.
Are you happy with the way you are, the way you look, the way your body is?
Yeah, I could be better. I mean, I'm still working on it a bit at the moment. I'm trying to put on some more pounds because I'm a bit thin.
Let me talk to you about the difficulty of touring. Now, you're 40, which is not a ripe old grand old age, but it seems to me...
Pretty old, mate.
Well, it must be difficult. Most people at 40 really have mortgages and 9-to-5 jobs, whereas you hop around in pink tights doing extraordinary things on stage.
Yeah, I don't have any pink tights this year.
No more pink tights?
No, I did do pink tights for years. No, I know what you mean. Well, if you can still do that, you can do it without looking a daft idiot. You should do it, I think. If you've got a big pot belly and you can't do it, then you shouldn't.
You're still doing that very youthful thing, aren't you, of running around and, you know, leaping about the stage and looking glamorous. It's not something that people ever think of people who aren't young doing.
It's not entirely an athletic pursuit, you know, rock and roll singing. I mean, you know what I mean? It isn't athletic.
Well, it's up there as well.
Yeah, but what I mean is, it's not something you have to be, have to run 100 yards.
But you do, though.
Yeah, it helps. But I mean, I don't think you have to be fit to play rock and roll even. A lot of best rock singers I know are very unfit. But I mean, they get along. Mm. Look at Meatloaf.
He's lost a lot of weight.
I haven't seen him. I know he's on the road.
How much harder is it to get up there and wriggle for 2 hours like you do? No, you're 40.
Well, in this sort of early days, you only used to play 20 minutes. So when you were like really young and agile, you could
you only had to play, 20 minutes of music and that was it, and you were off. Now it's like over 2 hours. So it's obviously harder. I think I can do nearly everything I can do on stage. When I used to be on stage before, I used to do like half an hour when I was like 19, and that was easy. Now I do 2.5 hours. I feel I can do most everything. But of course there'll come a day when I can't, so I won't do it, I'll do something else. Anyone, it doesn't matter how old you are, anyone that's going to do 2.5 hours show has got to be in good shape, like vocally and physically and mentally.
At the age of 45, are you finally satisfied?
Oh, I love that. Is that the last question?
No, but it should have been.
Oh dear. This is the thing where you have to carry on sort of working, you don't sort of stop and say, oh yeah, I did Satisfaction 25 years ago or something, whatever it was. You have to sort of carry on working, be creative. And I enjoy being creative, and I like writing songs, so I don't really want to stop now.
Can you keep prancing on forever?
Well, no, not really. But while I still can do it, I might as well.
You've been doing this now for how many years is it?
2 years.
2 years. How much longer do you give yourself doing this thing, going around being
I don't know. I never thought I'd be doing it for 2 years even, When we started off, I never thought we'd make it very big anyway. And then when we're making records for 2 years, and everybody still goes around calling us quite a new group, sort of. And I don't know, honestly. I think we're sort of pretty well set up for at least another year.
Often when people have been as tremendously successful as you have in your field, they get to a pinnacle and then they start to get bored with it. Have you ever felt this in your career?
Yes, always been. Before we reached the pinnacle, we were always very bored. But you can't sort of go off onto tangents, before you realise that you should be back on the grindstone or pinnacle, as you call it, again.
I've been doing the same thing, more or less. For the last 10 years after I left school, and things that have gone on inside my head have been pretty gentle, really, and so it's I've not been come to any tremendous walls or things I couldn't get over. It's just been very sort of just gone on the same way. There's not many businesses you can climb a ladder and go down the ladder so quickly as this. We've gone up, so I suppose at one time we'll go down, but I don't really want to go down, so when it looks like it's going to go down, I'm just going to back up.
When you've made your pile, what are you going to do?
I don't know. I think that perhaps I'd like to stay in show business in some form or another, but maybe another year or two I might not want to, I don't know. There's so many, you can't do anything while you're actually doing this, so it's very difficult to find out what you actually can do. There's lots of things I like to do, and it all depends on how much money I've got and exactly what my financial position is. And, if I don't have to worry about money, I can do exactly what I like.
As you grow older, would you like to appeal to an older group?
Like my dad.
Well, not necessarily your dad, but maybe your brother or elder brother.
Elder brother. No. Got enough film there, all right.
You're quite happy appealing to a largely teenage audience?
No, they're not really. We don't try and appeal to anyone. Anyone welcome, to come.
What do you see as the future now?
I don't know, really. I have no idea. I don't know what to do until we come to it, really. I can't even think about what I'm doing tomorrow, and I know I've got to go to London.
Have you got any idea why your group particularly has lasted as long as it has?
Because we stay together, I suppose, and we enjoy it.
Why have you stayed together as long as you have?
Because we enjoy it.
There's no fights between the band or not?
Yeah. We all have little sort of disagreements. We haven't had any violence since 1965, I don't think.
What happened in 1965?
Wasn't that the chicken? Someone stole someone's chicken sandwich. That was the last fight we had.
10 years ago, people saw Stones as
What
young rebellious.
10 years ago, 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 10 years ago.
How much longer do you think the Stones will go on?
Oh, a couple more years, I think, at least, if not more.
Got a lot of energy left?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stop working it because the Stones finish. I'm not saying they will finish, but I mean, if they did, I wouldn't stop singing. Plenty of other musicians.
Is there any chance of the Stones?
No, not at the moment. No. If they did stop, I wouldn't. You know?
How long do you reckon the Stones can continue? Because we've never had a rock and roll band last as long.
No, it's like jazz. You know, when jazz was started, they thought that was a sort of 10-day wonder. When rock and roll started, everyone said it'd be over. And it was. I mean, performers in rock and roll were very fly-by-night. I mean, they still are, some. I think you should carry on until... You can carry on in rock and roll singing until quite a long time. Whether you want to or not. When you feel like you want to give it up, you should give it up. I mean, I say all these things because I'm kind of I try to be optimistic about the Rolling Stones. It's just hard after all these years trying to get up to do, you know, things and do it. So, but I'm very optimistic about the Stones doing some work.
Is there a plan? When you ever play, this will be the last time, you don't think, well, it might be. Or you don't think, oh, of course this won't be.
Sometimes I do, yeah, and then I think...
This is going to be...
I always think it's going to be, we're never going to do it again, and then we always do, so I kind of like got bored even thinking about it. So I'm sure the Rolling Stones will carry on doing shows until we stop.
When will you personally get to a point...
Yes, Bossy Boots!
When will you personally get to a point where you say to yourself, that's it, I'm sick of this, I'm not recording, I'm not touring, I'm not doing a thing?
I'm going to school with Brooke Shields. When I'm fed, I don't know when it will be, probably when I'm fed up with it. They've been asking me that ever since I was singing, which is 20 years ago. People have been asking me that question. When are you going to get fed up with it? I don't know. When I get fed up with it, it's not like a boxer where you get hit so many times and you can't hit anymore. You know, it's different.
You're not punch drunk?
No, you're not punch drunk. And if you don't tour all the time, then you don't get tour drunk, punch drunk. So you can pace yourself a bit. So I don't really know. I don't look back to when you were. If you'd have said, well, I could say 20 years ago, I never thought I'd be doing this for a living. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do for a living. This is some strange living. No, I didn't really. It's a kind of surprise. Just to be doing this, still doing this, because I've been doing it for a long time.
Are you glad you're still doing it?
Yeah, it's not the most hardest thing. It's had a lot of fun.
Is it difficult to keep trying to be ahead, keep trying to have fresh ideas?
I'm not trying to be an innovator all the time. I think it's silly to try and be an innovator. You can be innovative within your own, within your own limits, you know. You can't be totally new all the time.
Tough to keep it fresh? Is it tough to keep it...
That's people always talk about that. I don't particularly find it that difficult, but it is a challenge. It's always a challenge in any business, in any creative endeavour to keep whatever you do fresh. And the Rolling Stones is the same as everything else, but it's not that easy, but it's not that difficult.
And how do you keep that passion? How do you keep that spark of the early days, which you've still obviously got?
I think by just doing occasionally these daft things, like doing Cuba and, really working at it where other people might have given up, and taking on something like this, which you don't really have to do, but it's interesting, it's fun, it's sort of a different challenge, and I think all those things make it interesting. But obviously you have to do the, meat and potatoes part of it, which is singing, dancing, and being creative. But you have to understand how things work, in the current world, and that doesn't just apply to the music industry, it applies to lots of things. I mean, driving a car is a different experience to driving a car in 1960.
Yeah.
So, and the record business, like all businesses, it changes a lot. I mean, the record business being a business of technology, it never stays the same. It never stayed the same ever.
In terms of what you feel that you've achieved, and obviously you've been at the top for so long, what do you think in your life? What's your achievement, if you could sum it up? Superstar?
Oh, no.
Is that an achievement?
Well, not really. I think the thing that I enjoy most is writing. Is writing songs, and the other thing that I enjoy is being on stage. So they're the two things I enjoy doing most.
Is that an achievement? I mean,
it is an achievement to have written a lot of songs. To me, it's an achievement because it's kind of a, it's like a big book of stuff that you've written. Some of them are great, some of them are not very good, but there's a certain amount of quality and there's a lot of quantity.
Well, the success, I suppose, is the other thing. I mean, there's the huge success over sort of bound together with the longevity. That success over longevity equals.
I mean, that's a huge thing. When I say other than,
never, like, Plus, then the other thing to look at is forgetting about all that, throw all out the window is the actual music itself and the things that are very difficult to quantify and qualify.